Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Ganaganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Ganaganatam Praptasya Kalyanam Gurnanavasya Vande Gurashi Charunaravindam Praptasya Kalyanam Gurnanavasya Vande Gurashi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasurasena Mahaprabhu Kirtana Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasurasena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shringara Tanma Diramarjanado Juktasya Bhaktam Sa Niyunjatopi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Chaturvedha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Chaturvedha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Kritvaiva Tripti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shirari Kama Vabayara Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupanamna Shirari Kama Madhurya Lila Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Sa Dhanalalopasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Ne kunjayono ratikeri siddhai Rajali veri jokti apekshaniya kunjayono ratikeri siddhai Rajali veri jokti apekshaniya Tatrati daksha Ativalabhasa Vande Gurashi Charanaravinam. Sakshat Haridvaina Shamasta Shashri Ruktastathava Vyata Eva Sadvi Sakshat Haridvaina Shashri Ruktastathava Kintu Praborja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravinam. Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasatrin Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasatrin Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Vande Gurashi Charanara Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachata Deshatarine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachata Shata Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Krishna Jadavaya Namah, Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah, Gopal Govindaram Srimadhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe, Radha Nila Madhava Radha. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra, Jaya Netai Gaura Haribo, 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 Netai Gaura Haribo, 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 Netai Gaura Pramanande Haribo. Jai Vishwapara Paramhansa Prabhupada Sutara Sarishima. भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापक वैष्णव शिरोमणि भातित पावन श्रील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौरिया गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। अनंत गुरु वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तविंद की जय। जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन स्मन गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि मावरनाय अवतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहत निदांग ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोधन की जय। श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। डेलोशिव श्री श्री राधा नीलमाधव की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुणा श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु स्वद्र देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर सिंहरे भगवान की जय। सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। जगंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे हरि बोल। All glory to the Son of the bodies. All glory to the Son of the bodies. All glory to the Son of the bodies. All glories, all glories. All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gaurang.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Praladadayine.
Praladadayine.
Hiranyakashipurvakshaha.
Hiranyakashipurvakshaha.
Shilatankanakalaye.
Jaya Shilatanka Nakalaye.
Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha.
Ito Nisingha Parato Nisingha.
Yato yato yami tato Narsimha.
Jaya Jato Jato Jami Tato Nisingha.
Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha.
Bahir Nisingha Hridaye Nisingha.
Narasingamadim Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasingamadim Sharanam Prapadye.
Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakham Adbhuta Shringam. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubhringam. Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare.
Abakara Kamalavare Naka Adbhuta Shringa. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanabhinga. Keshavadita Narari Rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare.
Jaya Narsimha Dev. Jaya Narsimha Dev. Narsimha Dev. Jaya Narsimha Dev.
Jaya Nisingha Dev. Jaya Nisingha Dev. Jaya Nisingha Dev. Jaya Nisingha Dev.
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj जय प्रहलाद महाराज, प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज,
जय प्रहलाद महाराज, प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज, जय प्रहलाद महाराज।
जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव गुरुदेव, जय जय गुरुदेव,
जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव गुरुदेव, जय जय गुरुदेव। जय श्री श्री भक्तिपथ सर्वविघ्नाशना कनिसिंहरे भगवान की जय। जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। बोलो निताई गौर हरि प्रमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। श्री वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी देवी महारानी की। You can start. Start singing.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi. Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi. Namo
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eyo Bhilasi.
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 Je tomar sharanalo taro vancha purna ho.
Je tomar sharanaya tara vancha purna.
Kripa kori karo tare Vrindavanavasi.
Tumi kripa kari karo tare Vrindavanavasi.
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
मुरारी योगिलास विलास कुंज दियो वा नयने हेरिबो सदा जुगल रूप राशि
अमिनायने सदा जुगल रूप राशि
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी
निवेदन धारो सखीरनुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी बिना कृष्ण दासी कोई जनो मोरा होय
बिना कृष्ण दास को
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा जनो भाषी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा जनवासी
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी प्रेयसी नमो नमः
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च कानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
कानि कानि सा पापानि ब्रह्महत्यानि कानि सा तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
कानि कानि सा पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
कानि कानि सा पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
जयो तुलसी महारानी जयो तुलसी महारानी जयो तुलसी महारानी जयो तुलसी महारानी
जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी
जयो वृंदा देवी जयो वृंदा देवी जयो वृंदा देवी जयो वृंदा देवी
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल
निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभु Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kaveri damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna, praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shiksha-stakam Ki Jai. Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitanyamita Smarane Nakala Itadrushi Tava Krupaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam Idrishamya Janinanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Amanadina Kirtanya Sada Hari Nadhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitam Vajagadishaka Maye Mama Janmane Janmaneshwari Bhavatar Bhakti Rahituki Twai Ainandatanu Kinkaram Patitama Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tavapada Pankajastitaduli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galora Shudharaya Bhadanam Gadu Gadarudaya Gira Polakai Chitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavisati Jogaitam Nemeshena Chakusha Prabhusaitam Shunyaitam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahename Aslishva Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshnar Marmahatam Karotuva Jata Tava Vidada Tulampato Mat Pranatastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shiksha-stakam Ki Jai Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gaurati Shri Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of the dust of human ignorance and extinguishes the fire of conditional life for the future earth and life. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully test the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, think oneself Lord and straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless divorce from service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I am fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O Om. When will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he sure remains so, even if sunders me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Ijai Namo. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods and Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. Consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone. And they are full of compassion for the following conditions. So, Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sundavadi Vasatyari Satarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Shmati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shiva Shabana Devi Deita Kripadaye Krishna Sambhanda Vijnana Naine Prabhave Namaha Madhu Jyotara Pranaya Shri Upamuda Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shimurtaye Natarine Rupanuga Viruddha Dantarine Namaku Vishwaraya Satchavera Gyamurtaye Vipranam Bharasambode Padamujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidanandanamine Purashaki Surabhaya Rupanuga Varayate Puravi Bhavam Mumitsvam Nirdesha Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Sri Jagannathayate Namaha Manchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vamanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurati Shri Namaha Panchatattvamakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupatam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagarpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanto Namostute Jaitam Suratapangu Mama Mandamate Gati Masarasa Panam Gojo Radha Madano Manamu Diva Vindana Kapadumada Shmaranagara Shinasanasto Shmarada Shila Govinda Devo Pristali Vishevamano Shmarami Shmara Sarasarami Vamshvata Tatastita Kashaveni Swade Gopi Gopinata Shristuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Suteri Pranamami Hari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Panchatattva Mahamantra Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always accompanied by His plenary expansion Sri Nityananda Prabhu, His incarnation Sri Advaita Prabhu, His internal potency Sri Gadadhara Prabhu, and His marginal potency Sri Vas Prabhu. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. Therefore, our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda. As preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, we first offer obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting this Panchatattva mantra. Then we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but these are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Mahavadanyavatara, the most magnanimous incarnation, where he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. Thus, to derive the full benefit of the chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, learn the Panchatattva mantra, and then chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That will be very effective. Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The transcendental vibration established by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is a sublime method of reviving our Krishna consciousness. As living spiritual souls. We are all originally Krishna conscious entities. But due to our association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by the material atmosphere. The material atmosphere in which we are now living is called Maya, or illusion. Maya means that which is not. And what is this illusion? The illusion is that we are trying to be lords of material nature, while actually we are under the grip of restringent laws. When a servant artificially tries to imitate the all-powerful master, this is called illusion. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we are becoming more and more entangled in our complexities. Therefore, although we are engaged in a hard struggle to conquer nature, we are ever more dependent on her. This illusory struggle against material nature can be stopped at once by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of the living entity. When we hear the transcendental vibration, this consciousness, meaning Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, this consciousness is revived. And this process is recommended for this age by authorities. By practical experience also, one can perceive that by chanting this Maha Mantra, or the great chanting for deliverance, one can at once feel a transcendental ecstasy coming through from the spiritual stratum. And when one is factually on the plane of spiritual understanding, surpassing the stages of senses, mind, and intelligence, one is situated on the transcendental plane. This chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is directly enacted on the spiritual platform, and thus this sound vibration surpasses all lower strata of consciousness, namely sensual, mental, and intellectual. There is no need, therefore, to understand the language of the mantra, nor is there any need for mental speculation or any intellectual adjustment for chanting this Maha Mantra. It springs automatically from the spiritual platform, and as such, anyone can take part in the chanting without any previous qualification and dance in ecstasy. We have seen this practice. Even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. Of course, for one is too entangled in material life, it takes a little more time to come to the standard point. But even such a materially engrossed man is raised to the spiritual platform very quickly. When the mantra is chanted by a pure devotee of the Lord in love, it has the greatest efficacy on the hearers. And as such, this chanting should be heard from the lips of the pure devotee of the Lord, so that immediate effects can be achieved. As far as possible, chanting from the lips of non-devotees should be avoided. Milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. The word hara is the form of addressing the energy of the Lord, meaning Srimati Radharani. And the words Krishna and Rama are forms of addressing the Lord himself. Both Krishna and Rama mean the supreme pleasure, and hara is the supreme pleasure energy of the Lord, changed to hare in the Bhakti. The supreme pleasure energy of the Lord helps us to reach the Lord. The material energy, called Maya, is also one of the multi-energies of the Lord. And we, the living entities, are also the energy or marginal energy of the Lord. The living entities are described as superior to material energy. When the superior energy is in contact with the inferior energy, an incompatible situation arises. But when the superior marginal energy, meaning the living entity, when the soul is in contact with the superior energy called hara, meaning Srimati Radharani, the living entity is established in this happy, normal condition. These three words, namely Hare Krishna and Rama, are the transcendental seeds of the Maha Mantra. The chanting is a spiritual call from the Lord and his internal energy, Hara, to give protection to the conditioned soul. That's the meaning of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. To solicit the protection of Radha and Krishna, so that we can remain faithful seeds of the Mahamantra. The chanting is a spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy, Hara, to give protection to the conditioned soul. This chanting is exactly like the genuine cry of a child for its mother. Mother Hara helps the devotee achieve the grace of the Supreme Father, Hari, or Krishna, and the Lord reveals himself to the devotee who chants this mantra sincerely. No other means of spiritual realization, therefore, is as effective in this age as chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, and we're going to begin verse number 7. I'm sorry. Yeah, verse number 7. Nisamyatat Vakri Vidrikshayadiso. Nisamyatat Vakri Vidrikshayadiso. Vilokitatranyat Apasyamanam. Vilokitatranyat Apasyamanam. Swadishnyam Astaya Vimrishav Tatitam. Vimrishatatam Tapas Upadisa Ivadade Manakam. Nisamya. After hearing. Ta. That. Vaktra. The speaker. Vidrikshaya. Just to find out who spoke. Isha. All sides. Vilokya. See. Tatra. There. Anya. Any other. Pasyamana. Not to be found. Swadhisnyam. On his lotus seat. Astaya. Sit down. Vimrishya. Thinking. Tat. It. Hitam. Welfare. Tapasi. In penance. Upadista. As he was instructed. Iva. In pursuance of. Adade. Gave. Mana. Attention. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When he heard the sound, meaning Brahma, when Brahma heard the sound, he tried to find the speaker, searching on all sides, but when he was unable to find anyone besides himself, he thought it wise to sit down on his lotus seat firmly and give his attention to the execution of penance as he was instructed. So Lord Brahma is the first created being, and he's a mental creation. In other words, Garbhodaksha and Vishnu, simply by thinking, produced Brahma without the help of Lakshmi. That shows that the Lord is completely self-sufficient. And Brahma appeared on the whorl, or the flower of the gigantic stem coming from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and he didn't know what his purpose in life was, or who was his father, or he couldn't understand what was going on because the material creation had not taken place yet. So he traveled from the top of the lotus flower all the way to the bottom of the stem on the inside, and it was all dark because the material creation had not taken place yet. So he comes back up, but on the way up, he hears two syllables, da, pa, the 16th consonant of the Sanskrit alphabet and the 21st consonant of the Sanskrit alphabet. And he thinks, why did I hear this? And he understands what tapa means. It means that he should perform penance. Now, what is penance? Penance is accepting voluntary punishment as a, let's say, as a sincere expression of repentance for having done something wrong. So there's tapasya, or tapasya, which means self-denial, and there's penance, which means a self-denial for having done something wrong. Now, that's why the word penance is used for Brahma, because he is reborn from a previous life, and he has an inclination to create. So he has a material desire. So that is not pure devotion. He has a desire. But he's the purest person in the universe. So even though he has this one desire to create the material world and populate it with living entities. So therefore, tapa, or to engage in voluntary acceptance of let's say, pain or discomfort in order to erase or one's previous, let's say, material desire. So he engages in 1,000 celestial years, which is equal to millions and millions of our years, in this meditation. And while he's meditating, at one point, he is told, or he is taught a mantra, and Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Janavalabhaya Swaha. And he's told that if he chants this mantra, then he will be illuminated with all knowledge to be able to begin the material creation. And the material creation, the fundamental elements of it have already been created by Krishna. And it's called the pradhana, the material nature. And then, but when the pradhana becomes manifest, it's called the mahatattva, the sum total of all material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, which is further expanded into 24 elements. We won't go into that now. So, therefore, in order to understand what's happening here, well, let me read the purport, and then we'll go into deeper understanding, as we touched yesterday, but now we're really going to go into it. This is, you don't have to talk about the Big Bang anymore. That's a bunch of speculation. This is how the world started, the material world started. The spiritual world is eternal, but the material world has starts and stops. But because those starts and stops go on eternally, the material nature is eternal. But it goes back, when it stops, it goes back into a subtle form, reabsorbed into the body of Mahavishnu, waiting for the next appearance of the material world. So Mahavishnu absorbs back Kshirodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and the entire material creation, and waiting for the next creation. Yes?
Maharaj, online voice is going very low from the mic.
Really? Okay. All right. So now the purport to this verse 297. To achieve success in life, one should follow the example of Lord Brahma, the first living creature in the beginning of creation, or material creation. The spiritual world is eternal, so there's no creation of the spiritual world. Right? Only the material world goes through these two steps of it's created and then it's reabsorbed. Now, let's pay attention to this first line. It says, to achieve success in life. Now, everybody wants to be successful in life, right? Now, this is the real way to be successful in life, if you're serious. If you're not serious, then, and there's so many people that are not serious in this world, in fact, the majority of people, and therefore they don't pay attention to any of this stuff. They go rather to listen about the Big Bang, and we come from monkeys, and there's gender fluidity, and this thing and that thing, all kinds of nonsense speculative philosophies or foolosophies. However, if you really want success, then listen very carefully. And Prabhupada says, to achieve success in life, one should follow the example of Lord Brahma, the first living creature in the beginning of creation. After being initiated by the Supreme Lord to execute tapasya, voluntary acceptance of discomfort and pain to make spiritual advancement. That's what tapasya means. And penance means, again, accepting to suffer or punishment as a means, as an expression of repentance for having committed some wrong or something wrong in the past. So after being initiated by the Supreme Lord to execute tapasya, he was fixed in his determination to do it. And although he could not find anyone besides himself, he could rightly understand that the sound was transmitted by the Lord himself. So this is a significant statement here, because he's saying, if you want to be successful, you should follow Brahma's culture. His culture is Krishna consciousness. And the culture of Krishna consciousness begins when we accept voluntarily what would be called tapasya, to undergo a process of self-purification through regulation of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and regulation according to the Vedic knowledge. That is the beginning of human life, and that's called varnashrama dharma. Unless one accepts this, they are not really a human being. They're an animal, because the rest of their life they're just going to eat, sleep, mate, and defend like animals. What differentiates an animal from a human being? A human being can regulate the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending in order to have plenty of time for self-realization. And we explained yesterday what is self-realization. Let's explain it again. You explained that, right? Yeah, so explain it again. What is actual self-realization? Just like I was listening yesterday to the radio, and one gentleman who was so-called gay, his self-realization was, I'm very satisfied with my body. That was his self-realization, and my way of life, So he has a culture, right? And that's his way of life, and he's very satisfied with his body, right? So now let's hear what real self-realization is.
Yes, the real self-realization is 3 parts. So the first part is to realize that we're not this body.
In other words, we're not made of matter. Right?
Yes. And we are the soul, the Jivatma. And in this body there are 2 enjoyers, or the Purushas, the Jivatma and the Paramatma.
So
and
there's two souls in this body. There's our individual soul, and there's Krishna, who's accompanying us. And Krishna is always going to be there as the witness. That's why he knows everything, because he's in the heart of every living entity and in every atom of the material creation. That's why things work. Go ahead.
Correct. And then the third part is to understand that the body and the material nature which controls the body, and the Jivatma and Paramatma, they're all
and the material nature, yeah.
And the material nature, they're all originating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna.
Yeah, Krishna is the cause of all causes. Everything is coming from him. He is present in everything, and also he encompasses everything. And still he's independent, enjoying his pastimes in the spiritual world. So he has infinite energies, and with these energies, he can do anything he wants. And he doesn't have to do any work. He can just think of doing something, and it happens. See? And he expands himself into infinite numbers of incarnations, or plenary expansions in the spiritual world, and incarnations in the material world. And they are plenary, partial plenary, or partial plenary. In other words, they are exactly like him in power, such as Balaram, and such as the Narayan forms in the spiritual world, and such as the Vishnu expansions in the material world. And they are partial plenary expansions, such as living entities, such as Brahma and Shiva and demigods, and also us. We are also an expansion of the Lord, but we're not a plenary or partial plenary expansion. We are a partial expansion of the Lord. Okay, good. So this understanding this, all these things, is called the Science of Krishna. And it's even more complicated, as we're going to hear in a few minutes. So to achieve success in life, one should follow the example of Lord Brahma, the first living creature in the beginning of creation. After being initiated by the Supreme Lord to execute tapasya, he was fixed in his determination to do it. And although he could not find anyone beside himself, he could rightly understand that the sound was transmitted by the Lord himself. So this fixed in the determination to do it, this is something that should happen when a child is very young. It can happen at any time in life, but it's most effective if it happens and when a child is still young. And we have the examples of that. We have Narada Muni, who became determined to do this when he was only 5 years old. We have Prahlad Maharaj, who was determined to do it already in the womb of his mother, because he was educated by Narada Muni by hearing him while Narada Muni was educating his mother and while he was still in the womb. So there is such a thing as prenatal consciousness. These are all amazing things. And then also Dhruva Maharaj, when he was only 7 years old, I think, he became determined. And let's hear that phrase, determined to do it. So this is what has to happen, or what should happen, if you want to be successful in life. And if it happens early enough, in childhood, then that such a child grows up to be an extremely high achiever in life. Now, what did we read the other day? We read the other day in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, first canto, Adi Lila, and fifth chapter, that the jiva, the living entity, you and me, has the potential of becoming more powerful than the sun. How do we know that? Because there is a jiva like that that's more powerful than the sun. His name is Surya. He controls the sun and the orbits of the sun and the earth. And he is like us. He's a jiva, but he's received all this power because of his complete dedication to Krishna, his determination to do it. To do what? To regulate his eating, sleeping, mating, and defending in order to make spiritual advancement. Now, we can make this decision any time in life. I made that decision when I was 21. You might have made the decision when you're 35 or 40, right? You can make the decision if you're 90 also. But if you make it when you're young, you have the potential to become like Prabhupada or Narada Muni or Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruva Maharaj or many, many others in the history of the world, like Hanuman, etc. That all depends what you want to do in life. You want to be like an animal, you can live like an animal, just eat, sleep, mate, and defend. Okay, fine. Krishna's not going to stop you. And then you're stuck in this cycle of birth and death. Or you can listen very carefully to what's being said in this one purport and attain amazing capabilities, but again, not for self-aggrandizement, not for one's false ego, but simply to serve the Lord faithfully with love and devotion. So it continues. It says, Brahma was the only living being at that time because there was no other creation, and none could be found there except himself. In the beginning of the first canto, in the first chapter, first verse of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, it has already been mentioned that Brahma was initiated by the Lord, meaning Krishna, from within. Tene Brahma hridaya adhikavaye muyanti yat surayaha. So that's the first canto, first chapter, first verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam. The Lord is within every living entity as a supersoul, and he initiated Brahma because Brahma was willing to receive the initiation. The Lord can similarly initiate everyone who is inclined to have it. So where does this desire for initiation come from? Well, this is explained in the 4th chapter, verse number 9 of the Bhagavad Gita. And it says there, in the purport, not in the actual verse, it says, I'm sorry, verse number 10. And it says, pages of my book are very old, so sometimes it's hard to do. Adho shraddha tata sadhu sangata bhajana kriya tato narta nivrita syat tato nista rujis tata atasaktis tato bhavas tata premad byudanchati sadakanam ayam premna padurabhave bhavet krama. This is a very beautiful verse, and it's from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami, 1st chapter, 1st canto, 4th chapter, 15th and 16th verses. So it says, in the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated, meaning genuine devotees, not phony devotees, but genuine devotees who actually follow the rules and regulations and who have made a determination to regulate their eating, sleeping, mating, and defending in order to make spiritual advancement. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master. Well, how did they go from having a preliminary desire for self-realization to deciding to associate with elevated devotees or spiritually elevated devotees and then become initiated? Well, it happened because they associated with genuine devotees who are always thinking of Krishna, always hearing about Krishna, always eating Krishna prasadam, always engaging in Krishna seva, and always doing Krishna sankirtan, and always in every way listening to Krishna katha and so forth. So by associating with such devotees, one develops the desire to get initiated. And the first step, which is called shraddha. Shraddha usually means faith, but it also has other meanings, such as being attracted by something. Just like if you become attracted to the association of devotees because you like their behavior, you like their temple, you like the worship, you like the kirtan, you like the prasadam. When you start liking all these things, you develop a desire to associate with such people. Of course, those people are arguing, selfish, they get angry, and you're not going to associate with them. But if they are genuine devotees, they never get angry unless Krishna is insulted or Guru is insulted. But otherwise, they never get angry. Someone can insult them, they don't get angry. They're not lusty, they're not envious, they're not greedy, they are not crazy, and they're not in illusion. They're always focused on serving the Lord. Not serving themselves, but serving the Lord and serving the devotees and serving humanity. Okay, so Shraddha is that initial appreciation of the qualities of devotees and the qualities and the culture of Krishna consciousness. And then that leads to the desire to associate with devotees. And in the association of devotees, one learns the value of real initiation, not the phony Upanayanam ceremony. You know, when some kid in South India or even out in North India becomes 6 or 8 or 10, the parents want Upanayanam ceremony. But that's not real Upanayanam. Upanayanam, let's hear what is real Upanayanam. This is explained in the Brahma Samhita in the verse, let's see where it is. Okay, I'm going to come back to this. I don't want to spend time finding it. anyway, real Upanayanam is learning the value of surrendering to the Lord and being fully immersed in the Lord's activities in the association of genuine devotees. And it's not simply having a thread put around your neck. It's much more significant than that, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so then first is this appreciation, and then association, and then initiation, and then anartha nivriti. Under the direct tutelage of Shiksha and Diksha gurus, one gets rid of all their bad habits. And initiation one, it says, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit activities outside of marriage, and always chanting Hare Krishna and following the rules, these rules and regulations. So then, after the anarthas or bad habits are given up, drinking coffee, tea, smoking marijuana, whatever, it's all given up. Then one attains what's called nishta, full strong faith. I'm going to do this the rest of my life. This is what I want to do. This is the goal I want. I don't even want liberation from the cycle of birth and death. I simply want to serve Krishna. I don't care if I'm in hell or in heaven or in the spiritual world. I simply want to serve the Lord. I don't have any other desire. So that's called nishta, very strong faith. And then one develops ruchi, taste. I don't want to watch the Super Bowl. I want to come to the class and hear more about Krishna. Say this taste, this ruchi, it becomes really powerful in one's mind, and one doesn't want to waste 1 minute on non-essential things or material things. And then after ruchi comes atasaktis, real attachment to Krishna. One cannot live without being connected to Krishna and through thought and activity and service and everything. And then from that comes bhava, the beginning of ecstatic happiness. When one chants Hare Krishna, that's the supreme happiness. Just like someone thinks, well, when I smoke marijuana, I feel really great, right? But the devotee, he doesn't have to smoke marijuana. He doesn't have to shoot up cocaine or heroin or anything like that. He doesn't have to engage in sense gratification. He simply is happy hearing about the Lord and learning more and more about this science of Krishna. And one becomes happy. That's their happiness, to come to a room where there's no noise and to be able to hear and participate in the class, ask questions and make comments and so forth, and churn the ocean of transcendental knowledge. And that is their real happiness. And then sharing it with others, that's even more happiness, right? And then seeing others make actual spiritual advancement, that is the greatest happiness, right? So then, after that is prema, pure love for Krishna, love and affection for Krishna. And there you can never fall down again, and you go back to Godhead. Or you're with Krishna all the time. Doesn't matter. It can be the material world or the spiritual world. It doesn't matter anymore, because you're always with Krishna, and there's no attraction at all to material sense gratification, etc. Okay, so this was this says that the Lord is within every entity as the supersoul, and he initiated Brahma because Brahma was willing to receive the initiation. The Lord can similarly initiate everyone who is inclined to have it. As already stated, Brahma is the original spiritual master for the universe. Well, Krishna is the original spiritual master. Brahma is the first living entity in the material creation, or at least, but there are many material creations, and there are many Brahmas and many universes. But in our universe right now, it's this Brahma with 4 heads, and he is considered the original spiritual master. So we, in this temple, we are members of the Brahma, Madhava, Gaudiya, Vaishnava Sampradaya. So our lineage goes back to Brahma, and then from Brahma to Krishna. So there are 4 authentic Vaishnava Sampradayas. The Sri Sampradaya, where it begins from Narayana and then there's Lakshmi. And Lakshmi, so it's what's called Sri Sampradaya. And then there's the Kumar Sampradaya. There's Krishna, Brahma, and then his 4 sons called the Kumaras. And they have a Vaishnava Sampradaya. And then there is the Rudra Sampradaya. There's Krishna, Brahma, Shiva, right? Or Krishna, Shiva. And then Shiva, not in his form as Rudra, but in his form as Sadashiva, has a Vaishnava Sampradaya also. It's not the Shiva followers who are smoking ganja and not the ghosts and the hobgoblins. They're also devotees of the Lord Shiva. These are genuine Vaishnavas. And it's not the Shiva Brahmanas that hate the Vaishnavas. That's not the Sampradaya that's being talked about. And one of the main members of that Sampradaya is Sridhara Maharaj. And he lived before Lord Chaitanya. And he's quoted very often by Srila Prabhupada. So there is a bona fide Shiva Vaishnava Sampradaya. Right? But there are unbona fide so-called Sampradayas that accept Shiva. So like the Sadguru, he's another one. He's we call him a Sadguru. He talks a lot about Shiva, right? But his understanding of Shiva is not correct. But anyway, we don't have to go into that. So, as already stated, Brahma is the original spiritual master for the universe, and since he was initiated by the Lord himself, the message of Srimad-Bhagavatam is coming down by disciplic succession. And in order to receive the real message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, one should approach the current link or spiritual master in the chain of disciplic succession. And that's for us, it's Srila Prabhupada. And anyone following him sincerely can also become a guru. After being initiated by the proper spiritual master in that chain of succession, one should engage himself or herself in the discharge of tapasya, in the execution of devotional service. One should not, however, think himself on the level of Brahma to be initiated directly by the Lord from inside, because in the present age, no one can be accepted to be as pure as Brahma. The post of Brahma to officiate, so to become a Brahma, Brahma is a titular position. What is a titular position? Well, the President of the United States is a titular position. It used to be Obama, and then before him was somebody else, and then after him is someone else, you see? So it's a title position. It's a titular position, and the same with the position of Brahma. That's why there are millions of Brahmas, because there's millions of universes also. And whoever is the purest person in the universe, but who still has a desire to dominate. So Brahma has a desire to create a whole universe. So because of that, he takes birth, and he has to undergo penance, because it is still a material desire, and we're going to hear about that now. One should not, however, think himself on the level of Brahma to be initiated directly by the Lord from inside, because in the present age, no one can be accepted to be as pure as Brahma. The post of Brahma to officiate in the creation of the universe is offered to the most pure living being, and unless one is so qualified, one cannot expect to be treated like Brahmaji directly. But one can have the same facility through unalloyed devotees of the Lord through scriptural instructions, as revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhagavatam especially. Well, we just read what the scriptural injunctions are, or scriptural instructions are. There's Shraddha and Bhajana Kriya, or in association with devotees, and there's initiation, and there's getting rid of the bad habits, and then there's strong faith, unshakable faith, and then there's taste for hearing and chanting and constantly staying in touch with Krishna, and then there is strong, very powerful attachment to Krishna, and then there's the initial state of ecstasy, and then there's pure love for the Lord. And then it says, and also through the bona fide spiritual master available to the sincere soul. So the instructions of Bhagavad Gita and through the bona fide spiritual masters, Shiksha and Diksha Gurus. The Lord himself appears as the spiritual master to a person who is sincere in heart about serving the Lord. Therefore, the bona fide spiritual master who happens to meet the sincere devotee should be accepted as the most confidential and beloved representative of the Lord. If a person is posted under the guidance of such a bona fide spiritual master, it may be accepted without any doubt that the desiring person has achieved the grace of the Lord, of Lord Krishna. Okay, so here we see this is the formula of success. Not a formula, but this is how to achieve success in human life, real success. And the real success is when you become a pure devotee of the Lord, you're no longer under the influence of the modes of material nature, of time, of the three types of miseries of this body caused by other bodies and cataclysmic events. You're no longer subject to lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. And you're no longer a ping pong ball going back and forth, overwhelmed by different dualities of life, right? All these things go away, and you're liberated in this world because you're using all your facilities, your senses, your mind, your intelligence in the service of the Lord. Now, there's a verse in the Brahma Samhita that we read yesterday. I'm going to very quickly go over it, and then we'll have some questions. Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, or Krishna, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka, Lord of Swetadeep, for a long time. His meditation ran thus: there exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments, in the transcendental land of Goloka. On this whorl, or this flower that exists, a great divine throne, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound, with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids, or gopis, with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. So this is Brahma's meditation. He sees Maya, or Durga. He sees all the gopis and Lakshmis and so forth. And he sees all the devotees, the gopas also. And he sees this divine throne, and he sees this amazing lotus flower with thousands of petals and filaments, and he sees Krishna sitting on that beautiful throne. So this is his meditation. So this is real meditation. Meditation is not meditate on the void or meditate on the light. No, this is real meditation. So I'm not going to go over that too much. I want to get to the main thing, and that is the last 6 verses of the Brahma Samhita explains something absolutely amazing. And that is, based on one sentence in the purport to this verse that I just read, where it says, accordingly, Brahma meditated upon Krishna and Goloka, the object of worship, from a distance. However, from a distance, Maya Devi was also there. True devotion is unalloyed devotional activity free from all mundane desire. The devotion of Brahma was mixed devotion. It was not pure devotion. Why? Because he had a desire. His desire, a material desire, was to create the material world and populate it with living entities. Now, this sentence is what is essential. But there is a stage of unmixed predilection, even in devotion for the attainment of one's selfish desire. So it's saying, even if one approaches God with a selfish desire, there's still a little hint of pure devotion, even in that, because you approached the Lord. You didn't approach the demigods. If you approach the demigods, then it's all materialistic. But if you approach the Lord with a material desire, even in that material desire, there's a whiff or there's a hint of pure devotion. This has been fully described in the concluding 5 slokas of this work, of the Brahma Samhita. That is the easiest method of divine service prior to the attainment of self-realization by fallen souls. So these last 5 verses of the Brahma Samhita explain this amazing statement that if you approach Krishna even with a material desire, there is still a hint of pure desire in that effort. And because of that, one will be able to become purified completely and go back to Godhead. But if you approach the demigods, Brahma or Shiva or Durga Mata or Indra or any of the demigods, then it's all material. But if you approach Krishna, there is a filament or a slight possibility of pure devotional service coming out of it. Right? So it says here, when the pure spiritual experience is excited by means of cognition, of knowledge, and service, bhakti, super excellent, unalloyed devotion characterized by love for Godhead is awakened toward Krishna and beloved by all souls. Real knowledge is nothing but knowledge of one's relationship to the absolute supreme truth, Krishna. Real knowledge is identical with the knowledge of subjective natures of animate and inanimate things, and Krishna, and of all and of their mutual relationship. So this is real knowledge. You understand everything you can see and everything you can't see. Well, what can we not see right now? The spiritual world. But you know it exists. See, that's called faith, because you've heard about it. You don't hear about it with such specific knowledge in the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or the Buddhist writings. You hear about it, but there's not a lot of information about it. The only book that has extensive information about the spiritual world is the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And the Srimad-Bhagavatam has exhaustive information about the spiritual world. So if you hear this book on a regular basis, as we're doing, you'll develop faith that there is a spiritual world. Now, the atheists, they don't believe there's a spiritual world. They don't believe there's a soul, right? They just think that there's just this material world, and they ignore all these other things. But by engaging, when the pure spiritual experience is excited by means of knowledge and service, or bhakti, super excellent, unalloyed devotion characterized by love for God or Godhead is awakened towards Krishna, and the beloved of all souls. Okay. So, therefore, the knowledge that embraces only the first 7 of the 10 basic principles called Dasa Mula is the knowledge of relationships. So there's such a thing as the 10 vestiges of pure knowledge. And the beginning is called, and that's called Dasa Mula. We'll discuss that at a later time. But the first 7 aspects of that Dasa Mula is what is called Abhideya. Abhideya. First there's introduction to Krishna. Like right now, there's an introduction to Krishna for all of us. And then once we have that introduction to Krishna, there is what's called Abhideya, how to engage in Krishna's service, right? So first there's appreciation for devotees and the temple and so forth, and then there's association with devotees, then there's initiation. From that point of initiation, even before that, one engages in the service of the Lord. That's called Abhideya. And when one advances in that service and becomes very, very serious about it, eventually one comes to the 3rd stage, which is called Prayojana, genuine love and devotion for the Lord. And that at that stage, one is completely liberated. So the first 10, the beginning of the Dasa Mula is introduction to Krishna. And then the next 7 steps of Dasa Mula, or the 10 steps of transcendental knowledge is acting in the relationship to Krishna, called abhideya, and then one attains prema, or pure love of the Lord. Okay, so devotion or bhakti, characterized by love for God, makes the appearance of Maya very awkward because of the knowledge and the practice that one is engaging in. Such devotion is super excellent bhakti, and is no other than the final object of attainment of all spiritual endeavors of the individual soul. So in other words, our attraction to Maya is decreased and eventually eliminated completely by the strict and continued practice of abhideya, or devotional service to the Lord. Then it says, the highest devotion is attained by slow degrees, by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization, with the help of scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. Okay, so these are the three things that help us attain actual love for Krishna. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to start from this point tomorrow, because this is very profound. And what is this all about? It's all about, if instead of going to the devas, as most Hindus do, to satisfy their material desires, if you go to Krishna, even though you have a material desire, and that is not pure devotion, but there's a hint of pure devotion because you went to Krishna and not to the devas. And then there's a great chance, if you're in the association of genuine devotees, that any attraction to Maya Devi will be lost gradually by performing devotional service to Krishna. This is a great subject. This is why we are here in the first place. We're proof that it's possible, even going to God with material desires instead of the devas. One can, if they take the association of serious devotees seriously, they can become completely purified and attain pure devotion and love for Krishna in this lifetime. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? And we'll finish that discussion tomorrow.
In this translation, Maharaj, it says, talks about the last Brahma Samhita translation. Talks about the highest devotion is attained by slow degrees by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization with the help of scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice.
Theistic conduct means the culture of Krishna consciousness.
Is that the regulative principle?
Yes. The whole culture. So regulative principles, you have 4 don'ts and 4 do's. It's both of those things. You know.
So just believing in God is not sufficient.
No. You have to act. It's not theoretical. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes. He's like us. But he through previous lives, he attained purification. But he still has one desire, that is to create a material universe and populate it with living entities. He's the original Prajapati. So that's not a pure devotion. That's not pure devotion. But Krishna will satisfy that desire also. And if Brahma does it in the proper way, he becomes completely purified and goes back to Godhead.
So demigods are all pure devotees?
No, they're mixed devotees. Brahma is a mixed devotee, but the mixture is very less for him, much less than devas like Indra and Varuna and Chandra. But he has one material desire. And one material desire is enough to keep you in the material world. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Maharaj, in today's verse, there is a line, Brahma was fixed in his determination to do it.
Yes.
So as you have explained about his determination, so how a new...
We have to get that same, every one of us in our life has to get that determination. And you get it in the association of devotees.
So how a neophyte determination will be like
No, it could be a wave because you're not regularly hearing. It'll be a wave if you're not regularly hearing every day. The sages in Naimisharanya heard Bhagavatam for 1,000 years. Okay, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You're hearing every day, right? Do you see the value in it? If you didn't hear every day, your determination and your enthusiasm would go down. Definitely, no doubt about it.
It brings up, it boosts like a lot.
Yes, factual. You have to have this determination. It doesn't mean it's a one-time thing. That determination has to be there every day. But it'll stay strong if you hear every day and engage in devotional service. Just hearing is devotional service. Hearing Bhagavatam is devotional service. And we see that very few people actually want to hear every day, even though they're initiated. And those people who don't hear every day, they ask this question: how do we keep our determination?
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Bando Mui Savadhan भाई ए भबा तोरिया जाए और ना कोरी हो चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मभू से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जते में भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु लोकनाथ केरा जीवन आहा प्रभु करो दया दे हम लोकनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना आहा प्रभु करो दया दे हो मोरे पाद छया आहा प्रभु करो दया दे हो मोरे पाद छया देवे जागुषु त्रिभुवाना जागुषु त्रिभुवाना प्रभु पादोइलो शरणा जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीति नामिने विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव सदी गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर गिरिराधर शिव शनि Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hari Bol Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Pararajikachasta Tarasatara Shri Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga All glories to Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Ki Jai Namo The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to this lotus feet with great awe and reverence. I trace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to this lotus feet is the perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic Brahma emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character.
Spiritual master,